So this is us sewing up, making up our wrist warmer. Now we're going to sew it up to about here, which will then leave a gap for the thumb hole, and then we'll sew up the last piece to be the top part of the fingers. So where we're sewing it up, we're going to sew up in mattress stitch. And if you're not familiar with mattress stitch, at this point it is worth checking out some of our videos on using a mattress stitch. And this is a way of almost invisibly sewing up your work. Now what we've got done here, when you've been working up the edge. Actually, let's look at the yellow edge because it's easy to see. But on this edge here, we've got a yellow rib running along here, and then just almost on the reverse side, but along here is a yellow looped edge. And then you've got the opposite on the other side. We've actually got a blue rib and a blue looped edge. And I appreciate the blue is not so easy to see on the video. But what we're going to do is these looped edges are what we're going to mattress stitch together, and that will help us to keep the separation of the ribs going up our work. So if we look here, we're ready to put this through here. So we're going to come through the same rib as we used last time and then back out through the next rib. So we're always working around the join. And then we'll do the same on the other side. We're going to go through under the blue loop, and we're going to come back up through the next blue loop. And with mattress stitch, we're just going to do a few of these stitches. So we're coming back, so through the same one, the same loop, and then back up through the next loop.
So you're going outside to inside and then inside to outside.
Yes, we're doing this from the top. So this is the outside of our garment. So we're going down from the top, down from the outside, and then coming back up again.
Through the next
stitch. And again, down through this loop and back up through the next one. And then having done a few, what you can then do is pull it tight. And you see how that closes up. Now if you look here, this is on the right side, can you see how this is starting to disappear in, and our seam is just looking almost invisible. We're now looking at the yellow ribs moving up, and they're all up there looking nice and parallel. And that's really what we're looking for. They don't look quite as good on the back, but they're not bad. You end up with just this slightly bulky edge seam on this blue rib. Let's do that a little bit further. Just see how it's going. So we're going to go, oops, where did that go to? Then we're going to go down and back up again. And then on this side, down and back up again. A few more. So don't bother about pulling every stitch tight. It's actually much easier to leave them all loose, but don't go too far because then you've just got a lot of pulling to do. But we do a few more. There we go. And then I'm going to pull that tight, and then look, it's a bit like magic. Look, see how it all joins it up. Clever. There we go. So here's the one I made earlier, as Jo just reminded me. So you can see this is the seam, and we've sewn this up. We've left a hole for the thumb and then sewn up the top part. And when we let that loose, you can see that really it's actually quite difficult to see the join. It's not perfect, but this is about as perfect as I've ever managed to get it with brioche. Brioche edging is quite a tricky thing to do. As you're working the wrist warmers, do follow the pattern instructions and try and be consistent with your edges. That will give you the nice set of loops, and then you can use those to mattress stitch up. But when you put that on, it's nice and snug. I have to say they're very warm for a day like this where it's cold outside. I actually want to keep these on. And there we have a lovely brioche wrist warmer with a hole for the thumb, and to be honest, it's looking pretty darn fine, I think.